I mean, everything that science does gives him new plots. Right now, for instance, a science fiction writer can write perfectly amazing stories concerning black holes. 5 years ago, the science fiction writer never heard of black holes.
That was Professor Isaac Asimov, author of such science fiction novels as Foundation, Fantastic Voyage, and I, Robot, discussing longevity of the science fiction genre. Today I want to discuss, what is science fiction? Is it
space, the final frontier?
Is it
the future?
Or is it just
Sharks with frickin' laser beams attached to their heads?
And what makes this science fiction? And not this. In his book, The Road to Science Fiction, author and scholar James Gunn, no, not that one, defined science fiction as the branch of literature that deals with the effects of change on people in the real world as it can be projected into the past, the future, or to distant places. It often concerns itself with scientific or technological change, and it usually involves matters whose importance is greater than the individual or the community. Often the civilization or the race itself is in danger. The narratives of the science fiction genres can focus on a small group of characters, but usually concentrates on the world surrounding said group. Said world being different to ours based on changes or advancements in technology. Many would assume Star Wars was a science fiction due to its setting in space, but some argue that sci-fi should not be defined based on being set in space alone. Philip K. Dick, one of the most iconic science fiction novelists and the writer of the source material for such films as Blade Runner and Total Recall, argued that science fiction should be harder to define than just space travel and the future. That a stricter definition should be used to clearly pinpoint what is science fiction and what is just adventure fantasy set in space. In the book, The Shifting Realities of Philip K. Dick, he is recorded as stating science fiction cannot be defined as a story set in the future since there exists such a thing as space adventure, which is set in the future but is not science fiction. It is just that. Adventures, fights, and wars in space involving super advanced technology. What Dick is saying is that sci-fi is not as such because it is set in space or the future, but because they are narratives grounded in our world based on concepts that could plausibly be introduced tomorrow, such as advancements in science and technology. Although space travel is believable and within our grasps, films such as Star Wars are far from believable for all their space wizards and samurais, and therefore should not be classed as science fiction, but instead space adventure or fantasy. George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, has himself defined the series as space opera western movies. Contemporary science fiction films such as the Terminator and Mad Max series are based on humanity's fears and forewarning that our advancements will be our end, but are all based on technological advancements or fictional events that are entirely believable. Terminator and its counterparts are all reflections of the fears we have towards technology, something that is and will be timeless through generations. Artificial intelligence already exists and is getting more and more intelligent with every passing day. How close are we to rebellious AI?
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Mad Max and other wasteland-set science fiction films reflect a world in which a water or energy crisis has taken place, along with atomic deterioration. A war could break out tomorrow and destroy the world, sending us into an anarchic, savage wasteland. The films in the science fiction genre are not concerned so much with aesthetic, but instead focus more on reflecting the world they live in. Science fiction is such a unique genre because of its adaptability and frequency to develop into subgenres such as science fiction horror, post-apocalypse, cyberpunk noir, and action. It tackles meta-concepts and real-world issues such as corporate greed and man's own blinding curiosity, the proverbial wings of Icarus.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
It is a genre that constantly improves and challenges itself, and there is no unanimous acceptance of its definition. It questions concepts of morality and humanity, more concerned with matters of psychology and behavior over
Now this is pod racing.
The distinction between science fiction and space fantasy is what separates the Tears in the Rain speech
All those moments will be lost in time.
from Zardoz.
The gun is good.
The gun is good!
The penis is evil. The penis shoots seeds and makes new life.